2011, a new year, a new beginning, like a caterpillar inside of its cocoon becoming a butterfly. But this is NASCAR. And in 2011, there was a lot of storylines to start this Daytona 500 in the 2011 season. Jimmie Johnson was coming off of his 5th consecutive championship. And at the Daytona 500, unfortunately, it had been 10 years since the passing of Dale Earnhardt Sr. But of course, it was still the Daytona 500. And there were a lot of storylines. Could Dale Jr. win 10 years after his father's passing? Could a former champion like Jeff Gordon or Jimmie Johnson, win the Daytona 500? Or could there be a Cinderella story? Someone like a Brian Keselowski who's starting up front, or someone maybe coming from the back like a Trevor Bayne who's only in his second career start, or a David Ragan, David Gilliland. We didn't know. But that was a few of the storylines heading into this Daytona 500 in the 2011 season. Now, David Ragan had to start from the rear, but the first major highlight of this race comes on lap 3 when the crowd, the broadcast booth, and everyone else paid salute to Dale Earnhardt, who passed away 10 years earlier.
And as they come off 4 and complete lap 2, NASCAR on Fox and Daytona pay tribute to the man in black, Dale Earnhardt, on this, the 3rd lap of the race. Legacy may not be his 7 championships or all of his victories, but the advances in safety in NASCAR that followed that dark day in 2001. And this Daytona 500 as Boyer hauls them around for a second time. McMurray and Montoya and 2 fast Fords right behind them. David Ragan in the 6 and rookie Trevor Bayne in the 21 of the Wood brothers.
And just remember, David Ragan in that 6 car, that's a backup car that had to start at the rear of the field as well.
On lap 29, the first disaster struck, which would take out many good cars and many contenders for this race.
Matt Kenseth,
big
and
wreck.
Half the field.
I see about 3 of the Hendrick cars there that's involved.
Mark Martin is there. I see him. There's a Biffle. Jimmie Johnson's laying over there. There's a 24 car. Looks pretty bad.
Brian Vickers limping around. And Mark Martin is part of it. Greg Biffle got a piece of it. Joe Nemechek's right front all torn up. The 9 of Marcus Ambrose.
Let's see if we can figure out what happened here, Larry. They're running awfully close together.
Watch the top right of your screen coming
right up
in.
Here.
Michael into his teammate Rudeman.
Got Rudeman loose.
Right in front of Keselowski. Here comes Nemechek. Pow into Michael.
Look at. Nope, didn't make it. Didn't make it.
Brian Keselowski, we just talked about, was involved. That white car up against the wall there.
There's Mark Martin down here, Jimmie Johnson, Jeff Gordon.
Now remember, in 2011 they were doing something new. This thing called a 2-draft system, or a tango partner 2-draft pushy thingy, whatever it's called. And so there were draft partners. You had to get hooked up with someone, and they would push you to the front or you would push them. Without that, you'd get blown by. You lose any momentum, you are gone. You are to the back. Happened at the beginning of the race to Jeff Gordon. He started second, ends up dropping back to like 20th within like half a lap because he didn't have a drafting partner. So it was crucial to have a drafting partner and to have someone you could rely on. Now, the majority of the time, as you can see here, it was manufacturers, teammates together, as you can see. Some occasions like Kurt Busch and Regan Smith together, that there were different manufacturers, different teams. But then you see Clint Boyer, Jeff Burton there, their teammates. But then you'd see manufacturer examples. And one of them was David Ragan. He was with Trevor Bayne a lot. So you have to think about that going on through the race. When you see restarts or you just look through the field, you would see a lot of two draft tango kind of stuff.
And further back at 17th place, David Ragan and Trevor Bayne. During the last caution, we heard from the 20-year-old rookie about the strategy he wanted to employ in the next green flag run.
I just don't know if who I want pushing me here. I'd rather push somebody so I know I can be careful.
I think the 99-43 are going to try to work together, so see what happens with the 6. I'll let you know we'd rather push here.
And Larry, we're looking at a piece of tape, or maybe even a piece of rubber over on the right front corner of the 21 car. You see it right over there. Watch that piece of rubber. It's hung on the hood pin. We're running 190 miles and 195 miles an hour. Watch this thing. It's all of a sudden it's going forward, and he's running 195 miles an hour. But I think that explains why the guy behind is such a good pusher. You lose all the air off the nose of the car behind, and you start pushing that car in front of you. You push that air forward, and the cars go faster.
Within a span of 15 to 20 laps, David Ragan would lose 2 of his 3 teammates. First, Matt Kenseth. Next, Greg Biffle. That means he only had 1 teammate remaining in Carl Edwards, and his other draft buddy, Trevor Bayne, was running up front while Ragan was running mid-pack. So that meant if there was some restart and he didn't have a draft partner, he would go to the back. So he needed some draft partners. He needed some help. So he needed to get up to the front near Trevor Bayne or have help from Cousin Carl.
Time to react, and he missed it. Digger didn't.
With 30 laps to go, David Ragan took his first lead of the race. It only lasted for about 2 seconds, but still took his first lead of the race.
None of the first 16 drivers stopped under this caution flag. Newman, Ragan, Bayne, Hamlin, Earnhardt, the front 5, and here comes Junior.
Boy.
And he did that without a push.
Without any help.
Sponsor a lot of money. You saw that on the taillight panel. If he finishes top 10, the kids eat free. He's up to 7th. And we've got a new leader, David Ragan. Second-generation driver from Unadilla, Georgia, is out in front with Trevor Bayne. Pushing. Here come Busch and Smith again.
It's like David Ragan and Trevor Bayne have decided they can go pretty good here. It's good logistics for the 6 car.
I think any driver can go fast with Trevor Bayne pushing him the way it's panned out down there.
Well, you heard him tell Carl that.
And the 36, Blaney, the slowest speed car to make it into the 500. And here they come again. Bayne in the 21, Ragan in the 6.
Look at the run, that 11 and that 39. Hamlin and Newman are getting on the high side, and that's where Ragan in the 6 and Bayne in the 21 goes to the high
Trevor
side.
Bayne has such a good sense about where the guy in front of him is going to go. What a great pusher he is. 3 wide right here at the line. Can they make it?
4 laps to go.
The 33 of Boyer, the 18 of Kyle Busch, they're blocked. They can't go anywhere right now because they're 3 wide in front of them.
6 times a driver has scored his first sprint. Oh! Smith gets turned in front of Boyer and Newman and Hamlin.
Keep coming. Caution's out now. Wave them off.
Now, with the timing of that crash, that would mean that there was a green-white checkered coming up. And David Ragan was leading on the outside, and Trevor Bayne, his drafting buddy, was on the inside. So the plan was Ragan would shoot in front, dive down in front of Bayne, Bayne would push him, and then, if Bayne wanted to, he could go for the win late in the race on the white flag lap. But in order to do that, Ragan had to execute a perfect restart. He would have to get a good jump, he'd have to slide down in front of Trevor Bayne, and obviously get the push. If he wasn't to get that, would Tony Stewart push him? Would Tony Stewart go 3 wide? Tony Stewart has never won a Daytona 500, so he's going to be aggressive. Trevor Bayne is making only his 2nd career start. Wow, what a story that would be for him to win. And look behind him. As I said, you had Tony Stewart, who hasn't won a Daytona 500. You have Kyle Busch back there, who hasn't won a Daytona 500. You got Bobby Labonte, who hasn't won for a while. I mean, you got some guys out there, and let's not forget about Kurt Busch, who hasn't won a Daytona 500. You got some guys who desperately want their first win or Daytona 500. So it could have been go for it or bust for David Ragan. And if he didn't have his favorite drafting partner, Trevor Bayne, who had pushed him to the front late in this race, well, as I said earlier, win or bust. So he had to go for it. But he made the biggest mistake in the biggest race of the year. Here it is.
Time. 2 laps to glory. Green flag.
Perfect. Good hesitation. Now if they can get hooked up and push.
And Tony timed it a little better, but can Bobby Labonte get up there to help Tony Stewart, or is he a man alone?
He's in no man's land. I just don't know if he can hang out there.
But look at the 2 Busch brothers, Kurt Busch in the 22 and Kyle Busch in the 18, working the high side.
I'm hearing they're going, oh, we got a car around. Got a car around right
Bobby
there.
Gordon saves it.
But the 6 is being black flagged, passing before the start-finish line.
And a car on the wall.
Newman again.
Ryan Newman hits the wall.
Junior.
Truex and Junior.
Oh, no, and here's Truex.
Caution is out.
With 2 to go,
Mike,
and here is...
Yeah, let's look at this restart because this is crucial.
Watch the 6 of David Ragan. He is the leader right there on the outside. He must maintain lane position to the start-finish line for this to be a legal start. When he changes lanes, he has violated NASCAR procedure, and he'll get a black flag.
They timed it perfectly. They just went too soon.
Yes.
They just needed to wait a few more seconds.
Now, here's where the most heartbreaking thing is for David Ragan. His draft partner, Trevor Bayne, would go on to win the race after this on the next restart. Now, watching Bayne win obviously hurt Ragan because that's where he would have been most likely if he had not jumped that restart and cut down too early. But it didn't end all bad for David Ragan. The next time they visited Daytona in July, he would win that race, the Coke Zero 400. He has won one other time in his career at Talladega in 2013, but the 2011 Daytona 500 will probably be one that forever haunts him. The race that got away from him. He was in the right place, the right time, the right position. He got a good restart, but he cut down too early, and that's why he left Daytona heartbroken. If he had won that race, that would have probably been the biggest win of his career. But because he jumped that restart too early, he didn't get to have that win.